Hello everyone, Namaste. My name is Ashwini. Welcome to another episode of GrowthFit interview series brought to you by CustomFit.ai. CustomFit.ai enables marketers and sales professionals to customize the website content without code changes to showcase the right value proposition. It's super simple, three steps. Install the CustomFit Chrome extension, go to your website and customize the content as you want and generate shareable links and track the visits. Today we have Jeremy Epperson with us. I am pretty excited for this session. Let me tell you that Jeremy is a CRO veteran with 13 years of experience. He is founder and chief growth officer of Conversion Guides, and he is joining us from United States today. Welcome Jeremy, and thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Excited for this.
Yes, I think today's session is going to be a lot about experimentation, testing, and convergence. I am happy to start with your journey. You started with conversion rate optimization 13 years back. What was that one thing you found very interesting to go for, and how did you move ahead in your journey so far? And also tell us something about conversion guides.
Yeah. So the journey started with my first startup. So I actually had my first startup back in 2007, and I had to build a website from scratch. I had to manage all of the ads. I basically was like the entire marketing and sales team by myself. So I had to learn everything in real time with no experience. So the thing that was interesting is
But that must have given you a lot of experience in with the initial start itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I learned more than you ever could in an MBA program for sure, or even probably multiple
Okay.
years of a normal job. But yeah, the CRO specialization really came with my first agency. We were doing paid search, and this is like 10 and 12 years ago. And what we found is that we were losing clients because we could drive traffic for them, but then it didn't convert on the site. So they'd go, okay, this doesn't work for us. And we'd go, okay, we're going to have to figure this out. So we started building landing pages was our first step. And then those landing pages would underperform by 7%. And then the client would be frustrated because they're like, hey, you built this landing page. Shouldn't this make us more money, not less? And, and what we realized is, you can't really optimize a website if you don't understand customers. So then I really went 100% into let's understand customers and what are all the ways that we can understand customers from a usability perspective, UX perspective, doing customer interviews, using analytics insights. So we just kept adding more research methods until we could actually figure out if we're going to create landing pages or optimize them or optimize an e-com shop, what is it that they want and what is it that's blocking them from converting. So that's kind of how I got started, or how that journey started.
So that's where the CRO striked, and just let me know that when you say that customer, you have to understand your customer. So if there is something with which you can understand your customer, and according to that you personalize or maybe showcase relevant data on your website to the particular target audience, will it help?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have plenty of, of data around running both personalization campaigns, A/B tests, things like that. What's interesting, and this might be a fun fact, is I've literally spoken with thousands and thousands of growth stage CMOs. When I sit in meetings with them, I ask them, why do your customers buy and what prevents them from buying? And I rarely get a solid answer that's backed by data. You have some guesses. You have maybe this branding firm did these personas for us a while back, but it is rarely I 100% know this is why they buy and why they don't buy. So it's a prevalent problem that exists. So if we're going to personalize the experience for people who visit a website, whether we're just flat A/B testing general concepts like value propositions, or we're launching personalization campaigns is based on segmentation or behavioral triggers, we have to know what those issues are, right? And that's the thing that a lot of people miss on is testing for testing's sake is great, but testing when you're solving the real conversion roadblocks is going to have a much higher ROI.
Yes, yes. I think this is going to be a separate, what do I say, a separate thing which everyone should follow in a marketing team, or maybe uh, which is the conversion side, that one dedicated person can be in your marketing team to just talk to your clients, talk to your any kind of CMOs, and just understand what they want, how they work, and what works and what not works. Like
Yeah,
you said,
so
you talk to thousands and thousands of CMOs to understand what works and what's
yeah,
their
yeah.
problem.
So yeah, it doesn't. So that's an interesting thing that's happening in the industry right now. Like after 14 years now, the adoption of CRO has been significantly slower than what I expected when I started. So there's not a lot of like full-time dedicated in-house CRO people on most teams. That's just not like a typical role. Usually it's a blend of
Mhm.
it's CRO is a team sport. Okay, so like what we need, there's 14 discrete skills that have to exist
Mhm.
for you to run a high performing CRO program. So no one person in the world can do all of those things. If you're a designer, you're good at design and maybe you can do some development, but you're not also amazing at copy and you're not also amazing at market positioning or customer research. So there's just so many different skills that you need to pull together a cross-functional team. So you could have a
Oh,
dedicated CRO lead, or you could have somebody that dedicates a portion of their time. But usually you're pulling resources from a number of different people, and you're building a process that looks kind of like an assembly line of people like adding to the process.
yeah. Would you like to mention some of the skill sets among those 14 skill sets?
Yeah. So I mentioned a couple of them. So like qualitative and quantitative research, we break out.
Okay.
Um, Design, copy, development, QA are some of the important skills. One of the important skills is executive leadership, or at least executive buy-in.
Hmm.
This is one people don't think
Yeah,
about
that's right.
because most marketers and even most CMOs, their job description is like drive traffic, right? Manage budgets, like add new channels,
Mhm.
like manage the allocation of resources that we have to like maximize how many people we get to the website and hopefully conversion. So getting buy-in for conversion rate optimization, getting buy-in for customer research, getting buy-in to do usability studies, like those are all things that take budget, right? So like you have to have somebody who
Mhm.
is at least willing to like get into the ear of somebody on the executive team so you can get that budget allocated to like help with the process. So that's one that's like
Right.
not thought about much, but yeah, there's a lot of silos and bureaucracy and kind of operational
Mhm.
roadblocks that prevent people from like moving forward with like CRO or personalization. And that's got to be something that is pushed on by somebody in the business.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, when it comes to optimization, how your optimization effort starts? Like, uh,
So
do
like
you suggest for
if,
website? If
yeah,
I say
yeah.
about
So
website.
yeah, so if we're onboarding like a client, and this is the way we conceptualize it, like we focus on like jump starting CRO programs. So there's no CRO, and we're going to put in like a high performing ROI positive CRO process in under 90 days. That's what we're trying to
Okay.
accomplish with every client. So the big things that we have to do is we have a dual track approach to CRO. This is like how I articulate this. We start testing from literally day one. We have to get tests
Okay.
live. We have to
That's
work through
interesting.
the process of technical implementation. We have to get people bought in. They have to see like, here's how a test plan works. Here's how we work a test through a queue until we get it live. They have to see that portion of it, and we have to get tests live quickly so we can like start chipping away at the ROI piece. Simultaneously, we're running our market and customer research process. So what
Okay.
that looks like for each business is a little different because each business has like different existing data, right? So if you have tons of quantitative data and you have attribution data and you have segmentation data and you have like good insights on like how people are abandoning from the funnel, but you don't have like the qualitative or UX side of things, then we package together like here's the 5, 6, 7, 8 different research methods we want to conduct in that first 90-day window. So one, we're
Great.
being data driven with our testing and optimization. And two is we want to build momentum and get people excited about research and how that can actually contribute to ROI.
I believe there's a great enthusiasm that you start from day one. that that's super important with this field, I
So
must say.
another interesting thing, because we've done this with hundreds of clients, right? So like we have an 85 to 115 day window to show some kind of like buy-in, ROI, like some kind of traction before people get frustrated and quit. So it's interesting. That's why we focus. So that's why we focused on like getting started, because I've seen so many businesses where they start CRO and they kind of dip their toe in. You know, they're like, let's try a little bit of CRO. And then they don't really put full effort behind it. And then they run a couple tests, and none of those tests win. And they go, CRO doesn't work, or CRO doesn't work for us,
Yeah,
which is not
like
the case, right? They're just not doing it well.
the enthusiasm what you have on day one should have a momentum till the end of the day. Like with it's a process. I can say I must say that. So, according to you, what are the biggest hurdles for visitors to the website, like to drop out? What stops them from converting?
Yeah, great question. So this we actually have a lot of data around. So we do what we call exit intent polling. So like it's behavioral triggered when somebody's abandoning a site. We can serve a poll. In those polls, typically what we're asking, depending on the business type, is like, what if anything prevented you from X today? So that's like generating a lead or
Okay.
getting a demo or like purchasing if it's an e-com site. And what we found that's super interesting is universally, there are 3 to 7 primary reasons why someone abandons from a site before converting. But that's different for every single business. It's even different if you conduct the same research method for 2 direct competitors, which I've done a number of times. So there's so many
Okay.
yeah. So like if you look at SolarCity and you look at Sungevity, and you look at the exit intent, like abandonment reasons for both of those businesses, they actually look very different, which is odd. You wouldn't think that, right? Because you would think similar customers, direct competitors.
Never.
Yeah. So
It's
like
a
I've gotten to see,
completely different thought process altogether.
yeah. So it's interesting, right? So like there's so many factors that are like inputs to that of like how the brand's perceived or what the product benefits are and like, you know, like how you get them to the site. But the cool thing is like that's easy to do. It's very quick, easy. It can be cheap or free to be able to get those customer insights. And we don't know until we do it. We can have educated guesses. Like people always ask me, like, why do you think people are abandoning from our site? And I go, I don't know. And then they get shocked because they're like, you should know, you're the CRO guy, right? but I don't know because I don't know what's happening in the customer's mind, right? I can't predict that. So we just have to reach out to customers directly and get some of those insights so they can be activated through testing.
So, how do you come up with this testing ideas? Like, what's your thought process? Are there any bullet points you would like to mention to focus on? I know maybe it's a concept like you should be innovative enough, but still, is it a straight methodology to just start with this test ideas?
No, that's the hardest thing in CRO. Just objectively speaking, that's the thing that most people struggle with. So, taking a customer data point and transforming that into a hypothesis or a number of hypotheses is like the magic part that people just can't get their heads around sometimes. So first of all, like our rule, we have a hard and fast rule. If we do not have at least one data point to tie to a hypothesis, that never becomes a test. And I've never broken that rule ever. So typically we're looking for 2, 3, 4, 5 different data points that we're like cross-referencing to be like, okay, and let me give you an example. So for one of our clients right now, we pulled heat mapping data and we realized technically scroll mapping data, and we're like your pricing table falls 90% of it falls below where the majority of visitors are scrolling to, so they can't see it. So that's a
Okay.
problem. And then we go and look at session recordings, and we say, okay, when they land on the page, session recordings are just like we can anonymously spy on a user and how they're clicking and how they're moving through a page and how far they scroll. So we'll take that data and we'll look at a couple hundred session recordings And we'll go, okay, most people aren't getting here. What are they getting distracted by? What's causing them to abandon? What content are they reading? What are they interacting with? Then we can look at analytics data and package that together and go, okay, they're landing on this, they're landing on this page where they're supposed to be looking at pricing, but every time they do that, they go and click back to other content pages and then come back and then they go back. So we're like circling this with data, right? We're trying to get this like 360-degree understanding of like, what are people doing? So like what that causes us to do is go, okay, we have to take this pricing table and we have to make it more prominent. So we pull it up at the top of the page. We change the basically color of it so it's like bright and stands out. And then we trim down some of the content so it's like more easily scannable. And like that's your test. There's your 6% lift. Does that make sense?
Wow, that's a lot of things, I would say. Even I have to rewind it to understand. But
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
maybe I've just started with it, so maybe it will take time for me to like freshers like me. But yes, I'll definitely go through it again and again to understand that. Now we talked about the test ideas. So how do we prioritize this experimentation ideas? Like what is your thought process?
Actually, can I go back 10 seconds and like, let me add something in there that's more, I'm just
Okay.
explaining
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is how my
please.
brain works. This is like what I'm doing in real time, like when we're working through like a meeting or a client meeting or something, but that's really intense
Please,
because we're
please.
time bound, right? So here's the big thing. Um, a better way to think about this is we want the highest quality hypotheses we can have. So let's say you're sitting in a meeting and we're like, okay, we think this is the problem. Here's one hypothesis. The best way that you can increase the ROI on your testing and the sophistication of your testing is you take that one data point and you go, okay, here's one hypothesis. And this is kind of like a groupthink concept. It's like, how can we develop 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? So you're challenging that and you're trying to get more raw materials. What are more things that we think could be wrong, right? So like now instead of like one hypothesis, you have 5 hypotheses. And then for each hypothesis, we're saying, okay, for this test, for this like pricing table test, like what could we do? We can move it up so people see it. We could change the color of it. We could change the content inside of it. We can put a banner on the site that redirects more people to the pricing table. So those are different implementations of what's wrong, right? If the hypothesis is this isn't emphasized enough for people to see it and engage with it, well, now we have multiple different things that we could run and test. So depending on how you're structuring that, you can basically run those as like follow-up iterations. You can run multiple variations at the same time and see what the relative change in conversion rate is across from that, like across the different variations. But like that's the more important process. That's the thing that like from a beginner's perspective that like gets missed, that like lessens the effectiveness of CRO. So it's like one idea is great, 7 ideas is better, multiple variations of each of those ideas. Now we have a lot of raw materials to work with, then and only then do we get into prioritization. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, that perfectly makes sense. Understood.
Yeah.
So now, if you have a task to maybe I would say drive traffic to one particular website. So, what are your perspective like points to be concentrated on as a
As
digital
far as,
marketer?
um, interesting. Okay. You mean like how do you uncover like quality traffic or,
Yes, yes.
okay. So
Even just a traffic, then how do you like what are your efforts to convert them to the quality leads?
okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, we definitely don't work on like the media buying like or channel side of things. Like I've just for many years now just focused on like conversion rate optimization, which is like the research and testing. But what we do create is like what I call a hub of insights. And we take the insights that we're getting from things like customer journey mapping, and we're not just making recommendations based on like what do you test on a landing page or a product page. We're also taking those insights and we're trying to extrapolate them across channels essentially. So an email team can use insights about like if we test a value proposition on site and it wins and it performs 10% better, I'm just like making up an example. Well, now we can take that winning value proposition and we can test it in paid search. And then we can extrapolate that to the creative assets for paid social. And then that can be rotated into, the 10 email flow for people who abandon, right? So like we want to take
That's a
insights.
really nice hack.
Yeah. It's absolutely. So like that is CRO, right? That is CRO. So most people think about it myopically, as in like let's test some things on a site, but it's not. It's like you're creating a growth engine, and the insights you get from channels can be tied to the on-site experience. The winning test you have from the on-site, from testing on a website, can be extrapolated out to channels, and like those things talking to each other, or those teams talking to each other, agencies working together, it produces exponentially better results. So our whole concept is, what can we do to empower digital marketers to be able to copy test, add copy testing, creative testing, targeting, segmentation. Like we can get those insights from the research and then use them in different ways. And therefore your winning tests are driving more qualified traffic, right? Because you're continually testing and you're finding what segments or like, what content is actually driving those conversions.
Amazing. Like when it comes to performance, I just wanted to understand like what metrics do you use to measure the post-click performance when paid
Okay.
ads, as you mentioned about.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting one. So that's a little unique to like what the vertical is, because basically we're thinking about two different things simultaneously. So like I call them macro conversions and micro conversions. Macro conversion is they do the thing that we want them to do. They submit a form, they purchase, like things like that. The micro conversions are the steps in the journey that lead up to that. But when they're not ready, we still have them in the middle of the funnel or the middle of the customer journey, right? So like adding to cart is a sign of high intent, right? You don't add to cart for no reason. Like that's a big step that somebody's taking in their journey. Or like downloading a white paper for like a SaaS business is a sign of intent. So as a marketer, there's a mix of, we're trying to think, if you think of it in the old school way, top, middle, bottom of funnel, we're trying to identify what those key metrics are for each of those kind of three parts of this is how digital marketers think about it.
Right.
Your bottom of funnel strategy is going to be very different than top of funnel strategy. So the way that you're optimizing those campaigns is going to be for completely different metrics, essentially.
Right. Okay, understood. And do you recommend any tools, or do you suggest any tools to marketers out there in 2020 start with, or they can just try it out for maybe CRO or maybe demand generation as per your experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, we are kind of first and foremost like tool agnostic. Like we don't, like the businesses that we're working with, if you're like a $20 million a year business, or you're like $100 million a year business, typically those companies have like a lot of the tech stack in place already. So like whatever their analytics is, and maybe they have some research tools, and maybe they have a testing platform or a personalization platform, maybe they don't. So a lot of times we're just like stepping into an environment where we're like, whatever tools you have, we're going to find a way to use them. So that's not a good answer, but like, because I run a consulting firm, that's what we've had to do, right? We've had to become tool agnostic. You can't just have all your clients on one tech stack, it's like difficult to do. But the thing that I think is like probably
Get
really
mixed up with
valuable.
the clients, whatever maybe the atmosphere, just driving the results according to the clients, it may be requirements and current situation.
Yeah. I mean, so really it's, if you're looking at tools, if you're like assessing what type of tools that you want to get, it is levels of sophistication. The closer you are to starting in CRO, the closer you need to be to like, these tools are free and or pretty affordable, right? Because like you're just adding on to the budget that you need, right? So it's easier to get started, like free, easy, simple, straightforward, not expensive. And then you progress into like higher levels of maturity and you need more robust tools, essentially. So like the one thing is like you kind of want to match your maturity to where you are in the process. So like earlier stage, you could use like Hotjar. You can even use a free version of Hotjar, and it's going to let you do heat maps and session recordings and polls and surveys and different things like that. If you start getting much more advanced and you have a lot more budget, or like you have a high performing CRO program and you're 10, 12, 14 months in and you're like, okay, we know this makes us money. We have some dedicated resources to this now. Now we can go get something fancier like Qualtrics and do like really cool like customer journey mapping, customer insights type work. But you don't start there typically, right? Because it's beyond the scope of the skills that person has probably.
I just like that thing. So I want to understand like what kind of training and educational resources or anything that keeps you updated with this CRO or marketing. What you would any blogs or any kind of podcast you recommend to the entry level marketer or entry level CRO folk?
Yeah, so like I honestly think what I would do if I was starting today, essentially, and I wanted to learn CRO from scratch, I would go find the top 3, 4, 5, 6 people that are posting on LinkedIn every day and just literally showing everything they do in real time, all the steps and all the tools. And like there's only a handful of people that like I personally like will read and trust their content. Usually it's a little bit more advanced because they have been in the industry for a long time, but that's really the best thing to do. So like I don't personally go read like CRO blogs, you know what I mean? Because I've done this for so long, so I don't really do that, right? I'm just like working on projects and like collaborating with other people in the industry. But like, there's like great resources like what is it? The Norman Nielsen group that does all the like the UX research and like the usability studies. Like they have seminars and they have there's things like that. People that I found when I was starting in CRO, that's like, okay, they're ahead of me in the curve. Like I'm going to skip some of this learning curve by just going straight to getting that content directly from the people who are best at doing it. And like, that's usually what I recommend to people. Like when they ping me on LinkedIn, it's like, hey, follow a handful of people that you can tell are like the true experts and like just read everything they write every day. And like you're gonna circle everyone. You know what I mean? You're gonna surpass everybody in like knowledge like pretty quickly.
Definitely, like I'll go through that. And coming to the ending note, but last but not the least, but I want to end the session with that one advice you would like to give to the maybe experienced marketers or fresher marketers out there in the market. Like how should they crack it and just go and just boom.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's like I do tons of podcasts and webinars and conferences and stuff, and everybody asks me this question, and CRO is so complex. There's just so much complexity to it that you're like, I don't know how you pick. It's like picking between your children. Like, what's the one piece of advice you want to give? I think the thing that is most important to communicate to people who are like getting started in CRO is the hardest thing is literally getting started. It's like getting started on day one. It's just like making the decision to start these things, right?
I think that should be the tagline of the session. Getting started on day one. That's really important.
Getting started in the first 90 days. That's what my whole book is. It's like, here's the first 90 days. Here's everything you need to do to set this thing up so you have the highest probability of success. And we know what all the roadblocks are. We know what every single roadblock is, that it's all the same mistakes that are made over and over and over by teams. And we have them all documented. We know exactly how to overcome all of those. So it's just a matter of having that level of awareness so you can like skip a lot of those mistakes.
That's completely makes sense. Like we are maybe responsible for whatever is coming through our ways. but yes, it's really important to start and just go ahead. Whatever it comes to your way, just try to perform best out of it.
Yeah,
That's that's
start
I should
small.
take the mantra from Jeremy Epperson.
Start small and build momentum. Start with one research method
Yeah,
that you feel comfortable with. Start with one test
exactly.
that's low level of effort that you can
Perfect.
do through a visual editor. Like that's the best way to get started. And don't put too much pressure on yourself because it's going to be fine.
Perfect. Perfect. With this last note, I would like to end the session. This was a really conversational and a lot to learn again from you, Jeremy. Like, if possible, I would like to have the again one session with you if you have time. But yes, thanks a lot for joining us today. Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Bye bye, everyone.